Hello and welcome back to another video in this series on learning Java, and today we are talking about hover loading. Nope, not hover loading, overloading. I have some code from the previous videos. This is from the last video, the class called person, and the constructor, and the method called info, and then some methods from the video about methods, this sum, and the recursive sum function. I'm going to start with these bottom functions, the sum functions. So just a demonstration to remind us what they do. I'm going to print the output of sum of 5. It adds all the numbers from 1 to the argument value end. So this is going to print 15. Now I want to print the word text 5 times, and then also tell me what this last number is. So this won't do anything. As you can see, it's throwing an error. Method sum isn't valid, applicable for the arguments an int and a string. That's what I passed it, because I didn't call it that. I called it recursive sum. It's doing something different, but giving the same output, and it also takes a second input. But these two functions are exclusive. This one takes one input, an int here. This one takes two inputs, an int and a string. So I can call this sum. But wait, I have two sums now. I have to change this because I just changed the name of the function. And now this is defined. How does it know which sum I want? Because of the arguments I gave it. This one takes one argument, this one takes two arguments. It can't get confused because if you give it the right number of arguments, it knows what function you're using. If I try to give this a third argument, it'd be like, what are you doing? But there is a function called sum defined with an integer and a string, so it says, okay, I'll just use that method. This is going to print the word text 5 times. I don't feel like writing that out. And then the number 15. So this is called overloading. We have two different functions with the same name, but they do something different and take different numbers of parameters. We can do the same thing with constructor methods. So if I make a new person called Amanda, just keep reusing the same objects. Person Amanda equals new person. 3 arguments, because that's what we've been given here. The name, then the age, then the favorite number. Amanda, she's 20 years old, her favorite number is 576. Okay, I can call Amanda.info. It'll tell me that Amanda is 20 years old and their favorite number is 576. All right, that works. Say we have a person, but we don't know their favorite number for whatever reason. Well, I can make that work. I'm going to define a second constructor. The same as the sum method down here. I can make another method with the same name as long as it has a different set of arguments. So for this method, this constructor, I only am going to take the first two because I don't know their favorite number. String name, int age. I should spell name correctly. So this is going to look similar. This dot name equals name. For this, again, we need this because we have name defined in an inner scope, but we're trying to reference a variable called name on an outer scope. So we use this to define the object and its property called name instead of the variable name we just have right here. And this dot age equals age. And in order to call the info method, if I were to just leave this here, favorite number would be undefined. If I tried to call the info method on an object that has been constructed with this constructor, it wouldn't have a value for favorite number, and this would throw an error. I don't want that. Instead, I'm going to define favorite number arbitrarily, if I spell correctly, to be 0. it was really basic, for lack of a better word. So that makes it obvious that there isn't a favorite number given, and we're just trying to put that in. Now, I could add a logic to this info method to say if the favorite number is 0, don't include the sentence about favorite number, but I can also just not change it, and then it says the favorite number is 0. And that could tell me, as the person who wrote the code and created this system, that we don't know their favorite number. To someone else, it might look like their favorite number actually is 0. So maybe that logic would be worthwhile. It's not important to this constructor, to this lesson, so I'm not going to put it in right now. So let's use this new constructor. I'm going to create a person named Barry, as you've been using, and call this new constructor. Let's give it Barry and 60, and Barry doesn't have a favorite number. You don't know it, we're not going to put it into this object. If I call Barry.info, I'll get same thing as I've gotten before for the first sentence. Barry is 60 years old. But now it's going to tell me that their favorite number is, as I said, 0. Maybe we don't. Maybe we do. But that's what it's going to tell us because I set the favorite number to be 0. Now there's another way to do this constructor, because 2 of these are the same as what I have up here. So I can do this little shortcut called this. This, remember, is just the object we're using. And when I put parentheses for an object or a class, that signifies to the computer that I'm trying to construct an object. So I have another constructor inside my constructor. So this one, I'm going to give it 3 arguments to call this constructor. This is just saying call a different constructor with the number of arguments I have. I'm just going to pass in name and age for the first 2. And then I'm going to pass in 0 for the last one. So name and age are going to be the same because whatever I call here is just being passed in this one. And then I define this last argument to be 0. I can't leave this out. I can't call it like recursively on a constructor. And if I was going to put anything else in this constructor, this constructor call has to be first. I can't put other logic before this because the constructor will get confused as to what it's constructing. You have to put a constructor call first, and then I can do other operations on the object. But what this is doing is seeing I have a different constructor with a different number of arguments. I'm going to find that constructor and use it. So let's try this new one. I'm going to find another person object named Catherine. New person object named Catherine. And this time, we don't know Catherine's age. I'm just going to leave that out. Her favorite number is 43,560. That's in the constructor call. You can see right here that because of the system, it's telling me that this argument is being read as the age. But that's her favorite number. That's how I want it to read. Turns out what you want is not always what happens when you're coding. This is, as this dialog is trying to tell me, if I call info, I'm going to get that Catherine is 42,560 years old. But I didn't give it a favorite number value, so the favorite number is 0. This is obviously not what I want, but if I don't know what arguments I put in here or how I'm using them, this makes a lot of sense. I could change this so that it takes int favorite number and passes that value here and 0 here or something else here, but then I can't also have this because once I have string int as my set of arguments, I can't make another constructor with string int as my set of arguments. I'm going to try it. I know I'm given the name and favorite number. I'm just going to call it fav number. And you can see that it's now throwing an error. I already have constructor method person string int, and it's a duplicate. I can't define it again. It's okay as long as there's different sets of arguments. This is the same set of arguments, even though they're called something different, the same types. So the system won't be able to understand which one you're trying to call. And I can't have that duplicate. That's all for this video. I'll see you next time.